Well, Merry Christmas. What is more iconically Christmas than a good cutout cookie? That to me is like the ultimate what you want to make if you're having kids over, or if you're going to have family over, or if you want to give something away that's just extra special and totally seasonal. It's a cutout cookie. I remember when we would make cutout cookies growing up, it was one of my favorite times, probably one of my mom or dad's least favorite times because of the mess that would end up. But these are one of my favorite cutout cookies because they taste delicious. It's not just about what's on top and how they're decorated. It's actually an absolutely amazing cookie. So to start, we're gonna start with some butter, just like we would with a lot of cookies, and it's at room temperature. The one difference here is we're gonna add a little bit of cream cheese, and the cream cheese actually makes a big difference here. It's just a small amount, but that type of fat and the extra kind of creaminess it gives is totally, it just makes these kind of knocks them out of the park. So we're gonna add some sugar, and then we're gonna cream those together just like we would for so many other things. So I'm adding it right in there. I'm gonna pull this up, start creaming, and let it get light and fluffy, which takes longer than you think. You need to give it time. I scraped it down once, but as you can see, it is much lighter and fluffy. We actually want to dissolve the sugar into this and actually help create air to it's needed. Now scraping is really important. I did it once during that process already, and I do it here at the end because these electric mixers, these newfangled electric things, they can sometimes get divots in the bottom where things don't get properly mixed. So you just want to make sure that every so often when you're making something, cakes, cookies, whatever it is, you kind of get in there and make sure that it's properly mixing. So I have it all scraped down again, and now I'm going to add some more of these wet ingredients. So an egg, and I'm just gonna crack it to be safe here into a little bowl. Sometimes I live on the edge and just crack it straight in, but do you see that? Look what I got in there. A little bit of shell, which always if you grab a shell, it gets it out easier because shell sticks to shell. I don't know, there's some science reason that works. So we're gonna put that in here, and then we're gonna add a little bit of flavoring. So I'm gonna add some vanilla, a baker's best friend. And I'm gonna put that right in there. Now I usually make my own vanilla, but I put it back in little containers I've had from the past because it's easier to store in my cabinet. But if you make your own vanilla, you can check my video out on my website. It makes a huge difference, it's delicious. Then also a little bit of almond extract. Now this is where to me these cookies start really going up a notch from other ones. We don't need a lot. We want just a hint to kind of just make them extra special. Again with the flavorings, this makes them really seasonal, but I've made these at Easter too, and they just work as well then. We're gonna take some orange zest. See how I'm just zesting just the orange outer part, leaving that white part that can get kind of bitter. And we're gonna add all that zest right in here. Look at that. Oh, the fragrance from that works to me so well with the almond, vanilla. I'm gonna cut my orange in half, and I'm gonna use just half of it and add a little bit of this juice into it. I like a little bit of extra kick, a little bit of that acidity. I don't know, I do. These cookies, don't worry, kids will still love them. Adults will love them. Because usually I find that cutout cookies, the kids go for them, and oftentimes the adults don't. And that to me isn't fun. So these ones, they will. So I'm gonna mix all this in, and then we'll add our dry ingredients. Now when you add in the egg and those flavorings, it can look kind of curdled. It can kind of scare you. Have no fear. It will all come together when we add the rest now, and that's the best part. So we're gonna add some flour. You know me, I always lighten my flour instead of sifting it, which nowadays we don't really need to sift our flour, but scooping it, overfilling, and then swooping off makes a big difference. Otherwise, if you just pack it in there and stick your measuring cup down in the flour, you usually end up getting way too much, which that's no good. So doing it this method, it's kind of a way of sifting it. I don't know, my mom always did this, my grandma always did this. And actually, if you've watched my video with my grandma before that I've had on here, both my grandmas did this, but the one on my video, she even talks about that too. So I have the flour in there. We're gonna add some baking powder. It's gonna give them a little bit of lift, help them be a little bit loftier. And baking powder, you don't always see me measure everything perfectly. Vanilla, I don't always, but baking powder to me is one of those that I try to because it makes a difference. It's more the science aspect of it. And we're gonna add in, of course, a little bit of salt. Salt is needed in any baked good. It balances out the flavors. We're gonna mix this up till it's just combined, and you'll see it comes together as a great cookie. It's all mixed up, it's all put together, so you can see it's a cohesive dough, and that's what I love. So this recipe isn't a massive amount, which to me is kind of nice because at Christmas, you're making usually maybe you're not, but I'm making so many different things, different treats, different cookies, candies, that I don't want to be inundated with any one type. I like to have all different types. So I am also taking the time, as you can see, this is what separates me from a TV personality. I make sure to get this completely clean, which I'm sure they do when they're not on camera, but I don't like to waste any of that. Why would you want to? It's all good cookie dough. It has the zest, it has the almond, it has the vanilla. No, that's expensive stuff. We're gonna put that in here. So I have it all in there. Now the dough at this point is pretty sticky, as you can see. It kind of has this like, look at that stickiness to it. You can see it really sticks to the spatula, and getting it around and cleaned out is kind of hard. So that's why we need to chill it, because it has a high ratio of butter. So once we actually put it into the refrigerator, once we get it chilled, it will actually then kind of hold together better. It will be firmer, which will make it roll out easier. And so that's why the chilling step is kind of crucial. You can make this the night before. You can make this even, man, you can make this a month before, and you could put it in the freezer even if you wanted to, and then pull it out when you want to actually make them. So I'm gonna make sure to get it all on there. There it is. And then what we're gonna do is just kind of press it into a rough disc. There's nothing too special here, but you can kind of just see we're making a disc because we're gonna then chill it and then we'll roll it out. So I'm gonna put it in here all together, kind of push it out to make it easier because it's more pliable now to get it into a nice kind of uniform. See it? Look how pretty that is. And you can see how soft it is until we chill it. So I'm gonna put it here in the fridge. Look at that. That's beautiful. We're gonna put it in the fridge. We're gonna let it firm up. We'll roll it out. We'll choose what shapes we're gonna do, and then we'll bake some cookies. The dough has chilled. Look at it, it's beautiful. And you can see it's a lot more firm and easy to work with now. Look how just like, see that? It's not near sticky or tacky. So I like to work with usually about half of it at a time. Kind of depends. You can do a smaller amount, a larger amount, whatever you like. When I cut it in half, I like to first sprinkle some flour out because as it softens, as you're working with it, obviously it's gonna get a little bit tackier. So having a good floured surface and taking your rolling pin and making sure it's floured. And then I'm gonna take some of the dough. Look at that beautiful dough. I do. To me, this brings back so many memories of growing up. Mom would be so good about letting us do these. And they never looked that great, but you know how fun it is to do. So I'm gonna roll this out, which since it's a smaller amount, it's not near as, a big a deal. But the thing is, as you're doing it, you kind of want to go from the center and go out. And I like to, just like I would with pie dough, I like to turn it every so often just to make sure I'm making it slightly more even. And the thing is, you could try to go for a complete circle or a rectangle, but really, if you're doing your regular cutouts with the shapes, it's not gonna really help you that much. So I'm gonna work these out to kind of more closer to a 1/4 inch. You could go up to a 1/2 inch, but then to me they get kind of thick. I like them a little bit more thin. And what I like is, as you're rolling, do you see those beautiful specks? You see the specks of the little orange zest in there? I think that's so pretty. And that to me is what makes these festive too, because I smell all that orange. And the reason I like to move it like this when I'm going is because it makes sure you're just not sticking anywhere. It makes sure that you're able to move them so as you cut them in, they'll really get on here. So I have 2 parchment lined baking sheets, and I like to work usually with 2 at least at a time, where I can put one in, have it baking while I'm cutting out the other one. Now this is where it all depends what size cookie you're gonna do. I have different ones here. These aren't near all my cookie cutters, but these are some of the shapes. So some of these are from when I was little. We made the sleighs a lot. We made bells a lot. That's an old one. It's kind of hard sometimes to get the dough out, but it's pretty. Stars. I also, of course, collect. Do you remember Martha by Mail? You know Martha Stewart. She's my bestie. She doesn't necessarily know it, but I'm pretty sure we're besties. And she used to have Martha by Mail and have these wonderful copper cookie cutouts. And so I collect them. They're kind of hard to find, and they even say on them like, oh, Christmas tree. Look at this, Starlight, Starbright, beautiful. So even though it's a massive cookie, I sometimes will do a few large cookies because then we're gonna decorate them. We're not gonna go all out. I'm not a pastry chef, but you know what? That's the fun part of this, is that it's for home. Look how pretty that is. So I'm gonna just start cutting cookies out. I'm gonna do some different shapes. I'm gonna do some trees, and as I'm doing it, the less you have to push dough back together and re-roll it, the better. So what I'm gonna try to do is all these different shapes, so I can kind of get into the nooks and crannies and squeeze them together and make sure I get as many cookies as I can out. Then I'll push the dough back together, roll it back out, keep going. You know the drill. I baked one cookie sheet already, and I'm kind of in process. You know, I have others cut out ready to go in, but you can see once they bake, they're still nice and light colored. We will go in now. Once they fully cool, we'll make a frosting. I sometimes just like to even do this the day before and then the next day make the frosting, actually go ahead and decorate them. So you can do whichever one you want, but I'm gonna let them cool in the pan for 5 minutes, put them on a cooling rack. I'm gonna put this other one in. Look at all the fun shapes we're already making happen. It's festive, it's fun, it smells good. Most of all, it's gonna taste good, and that's what matters. The cookies are pretty much cooled, which means we can make the frosting. Now you can frost them however you want to do. If you want to do a different type of frosting, I like to do a royal icing just because it gives them that cleaner look. And I think the point is it's such a good cookie, you don't need to like inundate it with a heavy, thick frosting. So I'm gonna make my simple royal icing. It's honestly really simple. I start with egg whites. Now, you can buy pasteurized eggs, which means they're heated to a temperature where it kills off bacteria. So buy those when you're gonna use raw egg whites like this. I'm gonna put those right in there. That's how simple it is. And then I already sifted my powdered sugar, and I'm gonna add, probably about half of it to start with, just because sometimes, you know, if the eggs are slightly, you get a little bit more in there, a little bit less of the white, it actually takes less or more of the sugar. So I'm gonna put some of the sugar in, and then royal icing doesn't have a ton of flavor on its own. There's a lot of flavor in these cookies, but I do put a little vanilla in. Now I'm using a vanilla powder, and it's a white vanilla powder, or probably more of an imitation vanilla powder. But why I use this is I don't want my icing to take a color from a dark, pure vanilla extract, because we're gonna color it to fit the season, to fit the mood. So I don't want that to be inundated with another color. So I'm gonna start mixing this up, add more sugar as it incorporates into the egg whites to get that right consistency. Now, to tell the right consistency, see how it kind of falls ribbons on itself? That take a few seconds to disappear and go back to flat? That's what you want. You want it to be thick enough that when you pipe it onto something, it holds its shape, but then kind of dissipates into itself so you don't get all the different marks. It's kind of a learning process, but honestly, it's pretty easy. You mix it once or twice and you kind of know what you need. So this is our base royal icing. And like I said, royal icing isn't necessarily for the flavor, it's for the look. But this one actually does have that little hint of vanilla, so it blends really well, but then it really helps the flavor of the cookie. The cookies shine through, and that's what you want. So what I have here is now this base that has no color. You can use it just white. You could decorate with just all these colored sugars and dragées and whatever you wanted, or you could make some different colors. And that's probably what I'm gonna do, because we have trees, we have all those different things. It never takes as much as you think. So I'm gonna put a little bit in a bowl, and now you'll see that you can put whatever color you want. Now I like to use gel colors just because I think they're easier to control. And so you can put in, start with, a couple drops, 2 or 3, and then you just wanna mix that in until you get a nice color. Now look at that. So this will probably be obviously for the trees I made. And as you mix it, it'll be easier here if I pick it up. As you mix it, you keep getting that beautiful color, and it's gonna dilute it some. So you have to decide what you want that final color to be like. But look at that. So I'm gonna keep making my colors. I'm gonna put them into, I like to use squeeze bottles. You can use piping bags if you like. Either one, plastic piping bags, cloth ones, or squeeze bottles. I think these little bottles can just have more precision. Any cake supply place is gonna have things like that. But I'm gonna get it all ready, make my colors, put them in, start decorating, have some fun. This is the fun part. You could have a party and have people over and do it, or if you're a little bit more worried about how they look, you might wanna do it yourself, which I've been there, I get that. So I'm gonna keep making these, get the right colors, get them in there, and start piping. Okay, you guys. I've been hunkering down and doing this. Now, it looks tedious, and it kind of is, but honestly, you get a cup of coffee, and you just kind of enjoy it. It takes a little bit of time, but I have all my different colors here that I've been working with, and what I do on some of them is I do just one color, and then on some of them, I dip it in then a sugar, so it gives it kind of that appeal. So that's an easier way to do it if you don't want to do as much cross work like with a candy cane. Or over here, I put little ornaments almost on that I just smudged one of. But you can see what I'm doing. So how you do this if you're not used to royal icing, whether it's in a piping bag with a small tip or these little bottles, is, I don't usually do this on camera, so let's just see how this goes. You start and you outline the whole thing. So you want your consistency and the color obviously to be what you want, and then you kind of just go down and look how I'm kind of just following, and it doesn't have to be a perfect outline, but I'm following the outline of this tree. And I'm kind of just going along the whole thing. And the reason we outline is because then you do, once this is all done, what's called flooding. And that's when, after you get this outline done, you fill it in with all this color. But you want to first kind of give it a parameter, kind of give it, you know, an idea what it's doing. You have to be in control of the frosting. So then I'm going around, see what I'm doing? I'm kind of just slowly working in. And once you get where you have those little holes, you can either take the tip of this, or you can use, if you need to, something else to kind of flood it. So you could use, I have a wooden skewer here, and you could take a little wooden skewer and push those holes together. Or if you find a bubble, because sometimes bubbles occur, you could pop the bubble. Now, okay, I know some of you are gonna say, it's a lot of work. Okay, it is, but you make cookies like this maybe once a year, maybe a couple times, it kind of depends. But once you get a big area like this, do you see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of going in now and kind of just adding all this frosting. Now, some people like to just take a whole cookie, take it upside down and dip it. And you can do that. It doesn't quite give you the precise edges that this will when you first outline it, but it will kind of give you the point. So as I fill in and flood, that's what I'm doing right now. So see how I'm just kind of going around, adding all that extra. What it does is, since you have those parameters on there of that outside line, it gives it so it doesn't just fall over the edge. So as they sit, they kind of get flat and they go out. So once they harden off, you can then go on to other colors. So I like for this to harden before I put on the trunk of the tree, because if you put it on when it's wet, it will touch. So once, like this one over here, I haven't put on the trunk, and I keep them on their side because the royal icing otherwise takes a long time to come down. But then once the trunk is dry up here, I can go in and put another color up to it, and it doesn't bleed in to the green because it's already dry. And that's kind of the best part. So you can make your little trunk, see how the outline, and then you go in and you flood it. Now for some reason, I think this had just a little bit of a clog in it because it's sometimes, but you can see how you then put it together. And then sometimes what I do, if you want to embellish, you have different colors. So here's just white. And I wanted it to look like there was snow on the trees, because you know, it's Christmas, and even if it doesn't snow, we can make it snow on our cookies. So you can go in with some white, and this one again is hardened off, it's dry. And you can just start going in and kind of just adding some snow. And it can be kind of haphazard, because guess what? Snow is haphazard. It doesn't, you know, we don't know where the snow is gonna fall. And so we just kind of add some underneath, on top. I'm kind of just doing it on the bottom of the branches because that definition gives it kind of that something fun, I feel like, that's just different. And then when you get that done, you can go in and you can add some sanding sugar. So that just kind of dusts it. So as you can see, I'm gonna add some of this clear sugar, and it kind of just makes it look like they're sparkling. Makes it look like they're, I don't know, like the light at night is just lightening it up. Now on these that I got a little too close to the edge, as they're slightly dry, you can go in with a skewer and just kind of, there, pick it up a little bit and it will dry. So I'm gonna let those dry. We're gonna enjoy them. But in the meantime, I'll take one of these that are already done. We'll do these candy canes. So I did these in all white, and then I tipped it upside down in the red, just to make it look, you could be more tedious like I did with the big ones and go back and forth, but why? There's nothing more you want in a Christmas cutout cookie than this. What I love is the cookie is delicious. That's the whole point here. They're not just for looks, they're delicious. I love that you get a little bit of that orange, just a hint of that vanilla almondy, but you don't really know the almond is there. And then the frosting just adds that final little bit of sweetness that sends it over the edge. It's the perfect Christmas cookie. And honestly, it's one that I want to keep going after, which usually the cutout cookies aren't. So what do I hope you do with all this? I hope you're inspired to have some fun. Maybe have people over, friends over. Have your kids come into the kitchen and enjoy making cookies together. Cut some cutout cookies out, enjoy this. Most of all, share this video around. Yes, that helps me immensely. But it helps everyone see this is doable, this can be fun, this can be those Christmas memories in the making, which is the point. So check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe, all my other recipes. And until next time, enjoy some Christmas cheer, have some cookies. I know I'm going to.